Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today, we're jumping into some ProRevenge. Before we start, did you know that KCC now has a Shorts channel? Check out KCC Shorts listed at the top of the description down below for under 1 minute Ask Reddit questions and answers and short stories. Our first story today comes to us from Lego Morph Lover. Got $40,000 for accidentally confiding a secret to a gossiping coworker. Let's jump right in. I worked at a chain salon in the US for minimum wage plus tips. We got paid on a sliding scale. The more you added services, the more your hourly pay. Then, for back to school, we started offering $10 haircuts. It's dumb to offer a big discount on back to school because that's when everyone needs a haircut, but whatever. Except to advertise this sale, we had to stand on a rickety step stool and hang a 10-foot long, 3-foot wide banner off the roof of our store. The step stool alone made it a dangerous task, but on top of it, the sidewalk was uneven. Our manager insisted we do twice a day, open and close, in case someone steals the banner. Because certainly, someone would want to steal a banner with our logo that says $10 haircuts. It was annoying, but I was looking forward to my next paycheck. I had a high service dollar per hour, which should have meant a bigger hourly pay and paycheck, except it didn't. That $7 haircut discount, it was coming out of our final service dollar calculations, and we ended up making significantly less than usual. I'd worked there for years, and this was the smallest back-to-school paycheck I'd ever seen. I went in the next day and was pissed. That morning, a coworker, who was a total brown-nosed gossiper, and I were outside setting up the banner. It was my turn to stand on the rickety step stool, and I said I was glad this would be the last time I ever do this. I was fully prepared to make a joke about how I was going to fall and crack my head open when the petty revenge idea came into mind, and I swiftly executed it. When she asked why, I told her not to tell anyone, but I'd accepted a job at another salon with a set schedule, higher commission, and $5 more an hour. I said I'd planned on putting in my 2 weeks, but they needed me to start sooner, so I was going to work the weekend and not come back. This would leave us understaffed for the back-to-school rush. After reiterating she could not tell anyone, especially not our boss, she agreed. I left early that day, and on my next shift, my boss pulled me into her office. She said she'd heard a rumor that I was leaving to work at a different salon. I told her I had a much better offer elsewhere, but if she could match that, I would love to stay. She had to put in a call to our district leader about the raise, but said I could work with a set schedule starting the following week. I was working until 9 p.m. some days and at 9 a.m. the next. The unpredictable schedule made finding childcare a pain in the butt. I was consistently ranked number 2 in sales for our store and the district. So the district leader approved the raise and I stayed there for another 5 years, which means I got an additional $39,000 in pay for accidentally telling the salon gossiper my secret. I also got 20% commission on $500 to $1,000 a week in product sales. The ProRevenge. I also started printing out my service sales slips from the day before at the beginning of every shift, so that when payroll readjusted the paychecks to include coupons, I could pull up my record and dispute it. According to payroll, there was nothing they could do about it. I stayed another 5 years, raising the issue sporadically until they brought back the $10 haircut sale, and I quit. A few months after I left, I was made aware that a different employee in another state filed a class action lawsuit, and I got a letter asking if I wanted to be a part of it. I accepted, and the lawyer loved receiving 5 years worth of documentation, emails from corporate and payroll, etc. They had to go back through all of my paychecks and compensate me for the difference. This included adding the free haircuts, reward program, and discounted haircuts as their whole amount, increasing the service dollar, 19 cents an hour here and 30 cents an hour there, added up, and despite the fact that the settlement was split with a lot of people, I got $10,000 from that, in addition to my adjusted pay, which was around half the settlement amount. Does anyone else here think that intentional wage theft should be punished with prison time? Also, hey boss, do you want me to go hang that banner? Do you have all the proper safety protocols in place? Oh, you don't? Well, I guess you can go hang it yourself then, huh? Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our second story today comes to us from Devilish Rogue. Mess about with my flight? That'll cost you millions of dollars. Let's jump right in. A long time ago, I took a trip to Turkey on their national carrier with my girlfriend. When attempting to return home, I was told that they had overbooked the flight and there was only one seat left. Rather than abandon each other, we were told we could catch a flight the next day instead. So we agreed to that. We were both a bit annoyed as we were due to work the next day and our employer was not pleased that we wouldn't be returning as agreed. But these things happened, so we made the most of it. We had to find accommodation as where we were staying had been booked and pay as much for a single night as we'd spent on the entire rest of the 3-day trip though. The next day we turned up at the airport only to be told that my ticket had expired and I was supposed to fly yesterday. I explained the situation but was told that it was my problem, not theirs. In the end, I had to buy another ticket, which cost me more than the entire rest of the trip, including the extra day's overnight stay. I was livid, and the uncaring attitude of the staff really rubbed me the wrong way. So when I arrived back at work, I decided to make some changes. Both my girlfriend and I were working in international events organizations, and we decided to avoid using this company in our respective organizations. I also canceled existing flights booked using them, and switched to other providers. This alone cost them tens of thousands of dollars. I did a rough calculation when I left that role a couple years later and worked out that my boycott alone had cost them almost $300,000. And as part of my handover notes, my experience with them was thoroughly chronicled along with instructions to avoid using them at all costs. Many years later, I'd forgotten all about this when catching up with old colleagues. I was introduced to the person doing my old job, and she updated me on some of the places and events that had recently been held. And when she was telling me, she said, except for Turkey, of course. Apparently, even after I'd left and several replacements had been in post, this instruction was still part of the handover notes. I told her that I was the guy who had put that in the notes and why, and she said that it was the perfect petty revenge. I posted this there, but have a DM telling me that because of the sum involved, it belongs here instead. This whole business has cost them millions of dollars by now, and I've no idea if my long-since ex still did the same for her place of work, which might mean millions more. Either way, it is something they'd never know unless they read this. I'm the kind of person that likes to take credit for the things that I do, especially when it has such a huge impact. So if I were OP, I'd probably send an email to the CEO of that company with a link to the Reddit thread so they could read it and know exactly who screwed them over. Our next story today comes to us from Craps Today, Music as a Weapon. Let's jump right in. I had just bought my first house. From the start, my next door neighbor was not friendly. No problem, I'll just ignore the guy and move on. But this guy was retired and spent all day outside on his porch and would stare me down, not saying a word, the entire time I was mowing or doing chores or getting my mail. I would say hi and wave, but got nothing in return ever. Well, I'm not the kind of person to be intimidated with a little staring contest, and I ended up being just as obnoxious. When he would stare me down, I would either A, be super nice and talkative, and generally annoying him with my outgoing nature, or B, drop what I was doing and join the staring competition, explaining to him that this was not a game he was going to win the whole time I was staring back at him, taunting him. After about 2 years of this, he started talking, and oh boy was he pissed at me, yelling at me for nonsense stuff, called me boy a few times, then came the finger pew-pews and big pew-pew air pumps. To explain this, he would aim his finger pew-pew at me and mime pulling the trigger, and also pumping an imaginary big pew-pew sometimes. So I asked myself, how do you deal with crazy without a face-to-face confrontation every time? Oh yeah, I play an acoustic guitar, so I went to the music shop and got an amber-colored Les Paul and a 60-watt tube amp, and now, all of a sudden, I play the electric guitar. I then mounted that big effing amp under the window closest to his usual perch. At one point, I had put up security cameras and one just happened to be pointing at his perch, a topic he loved to scream about. The setup was complete. A full electric guitar rig right next to my office PC that showed a live security feed. Every time I could catch him outside on his perch, I warmed up the amp, dropped whatever I was doing, and got in a jam session. Loud AF. Loud. Louder. I got professional stage quality earplugs and everything. The amp was giving up teeth-rattling vibrations. I ended up building a $2,000 pedal board with an assortment of distortion and looping effects, wah pedal for extra joy. I liked playing grunge and metal because it was the loudest. I got into a place, musically, where I would play Grateful Dead songs in the style of punk rock. If you're not into jam bands, you're really not going to like punk jam bands, laugh out loud. I played guitar basically every day for about 4 years right in his face. Window open, windows closed, morning, noon, night, it didn't matter. If he was out there and I was home, I played guitar. He would get up and leave and go inside, only to come out a little while later with a drink or something, and then I would start playing again. Rinse and repeat for years. He never called the cops. He threatened it but never made good. He also never got the hint and kept up with his side of the feud with escalating screaming and taunts whenever I was outside. Again, this went on for about 4 years. One random Monday, I had been stuck in traffic for about 2 hours after work and was very pissed off. I get home and had a few whiskeys and played my guitar for about 5 hours, raging the whole time. Went to bed, woke up the next morning to tapping on my windows closest to his perch. It was a cop tapping on the window. I went outside, and the cop said he was doing a wellness check on my neighbor. He missed an appointment or something, and his son couldn't get a hold of him on the phone. He was not answering his door. Hours passed, and the son comes over and opens the house. Sure enough, my neighbor had died of a heart attack. The last thing he probably heard was me blowing off steam loudly in the key of A. I have taken a lot of joy from that likely possibility. It has been 2 years since he passed, and I have played my electric guitar only about a dozen times. I just can't find the rage any longer. I should note that our houses are built like concrete bunkers, and sound doesn't make it very far. I asked around, but no other neighbor ever said a word about loud music from my house, but he heard every single note wherever he was in his house or outside. Okay, so OP sped up the death of his neighbor by playing loud music and pissing them off on a regular basis. Yeah, this won't be in ProRevenge for very long, so if you want to go leave a comment on this one, do it now, because it'll probably get deleted really soon. Now that being said, for our YouTube listeners and watchers, comment down below. Do you think OP contributed to the death of the neighbor, or do you think the old crotchety guy just died of his own accord? Our next story today comes to us from Pretentious Banana, The Wrath of the Stoner Art Student. Let's jump right in. So I think this would count as ProRevenge because I planned it kinda. A bit long, sorry about that. First time really posting this anywhere. Things to note, as the title says, I'm an art student. I live with my parents while I'm on college to cut living expenses. Couple of years ago, my dad had a security system installed that came with 2 cameras to set up. One pointed at the side door and driveway. One pointed at the street by the front door, so you can see the cars. It has an app we all installed on our phones that gives us alerts. I also have this shed I asked my parents if I could use for most of my art as it gets messy. I would always clean up after myself, but paint still stains the carpet, and if I had to smell that tangerine floor cleaner one more time, I was going to barf. I fixed it up a bit, still looks crappy, but it's mine. Took about 2 weeks to set up. We also have a problem of people going through cars, a lot, like ridiculously so. I have a crap Ford Tempo that I never kept anything important in, so I didn't care. The incident. As I said, I have an art shed and I'm a student of the visual communication program in my local college. My professor had given us our term assignment, which was basic but fun. Pick a piece that was in the textbook and either write a 10-page essay on it or do a recreation with a 2-page blurb of how you copied the techniques, yada yada. I was stoked because Van Gogh was covered in there, and I wanted to do a piece called Cafe Terrace. It's a gorgeous piece, and I put a lot of time and effort into this thing, and smoked a lot of weed while doing it. But one night, my phone gives me an alert from the security system while I'm at a small party, get-together, and I see a blurry image of 3 teens running past my side door. I think it's odd, but I wasn't home to check it out immediately. When I get home from being driven by a friend from the party, I get back to see my car door ajar, and I roll my eyes because it's annoying but not new. But then I remember the alert on my phone and went to check around the house. Check the shed last because there's a lock on it, it'll be fine, right? I live in Canada, who's gonna break into my shed? Oh no. When I get to my shed, it's trashed. Lock on the ground, The material I hung up over the ceiling was ripped and burned. All works of art I put on the walls were ripped down. My paint was everywhere and my pastels were stomped on. They even broke my effing little crappy stool I nicknamed Hermit. But the worst was my term project was destroyed, cut apart, and then repeatedly smashed with my effing bong. My 9mm glass beaker bong that I got as a present 2 weeks before I had to turn that effing project in. I was livid. The revenge. I was able to get a week's extension as I emailed my professor and sent him photos including the security alert and contacted the police about the destruction of property. Still can't get over them looking at my shattered bong and me just whipping out my green card to be safe. Cleanup was a couple of days, and I did manage to turn my project in on time without the extension by just not going to sleep. First one was better, but hey. I was still pissed though. I kept thinking of ways on how to catch them or lure them in and scare the crap out of them. So I left change, loonies and toonies, stuff they would go for, and fives in my car's console. Left my doors unlocked and at the front of the house. I turned on that camera as it had been off for a while because it would go off a lot, and I kept a bat in the shed and the side door. No guarantee that it'll be the same idiots, but I keep hoping. A few people picked my car, but it wasn't those turds, so I waved it off. A month later, and a few days after my final exams, I'm in the shed at 2 a.m. smoking and sketching something when the alert goes off. It's the front camera, and I see 3 familiar-looking blurs ransacking my car. I grab the bat, and before I set out, I hear them coming towards my shed. I flick the string of lights off, and I let them get closer before I jump out with a bat in hand. One of them screams so loud before they book it, and I run after them to scare them away. I'm bad at running and fully expect them to outpace me, but one of them cuts across my front lawn and slipped on the wet grass. He biffs it, and I catch up to him and grab him by the back of his hoodie with the bat, threatening him. Were you the ones who trashed my shed? I'm sorry, I won't do it again. The F's your name, Matthew. His name was not Matthew. Give me your effing wallet. The dude throws it, and I let go of him to retrieve it, and he runs off, whatever. I pocketed my 5 plus what I'm assuming was another $40 of stolen money. Took a look at his wallet and his high school ID with his real name was there. Facebooked his mom and told him what happened and emailed the school as well, mentioning I was a previous student there and that I was devastated that this is how the school teaches children. My mom turned up at my door with another mom and an older dude and the 3 turdlings. They had to apologize to me in person. Isn't that nice? OP added a quick edit. It says, also think my professor gave me a few more points than I deserved on the piece I submitted just because of what happened. Bless your soul, Clint. That painting was crap, but you gave me 82 out of 100 anyway. I honestly can't imagine the heartbreak you would feel when someone destroys one of your pieces of artwork. I reckon it's pretty close to the same feeling I get when I spend about $40 on a pen blank, put it on the lathe, start spinning it, and the damn thing explodes all over the place, unusable. Anyway, check out all 4 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.